So we're going to do this week's assignment, computer-based math. You go to classwork, and you're going to see that there's variables.csv. So this is your data file, and there's a separate video that shows what to do on how to import it. Wolfram import CSV. So you're going to download that file and then bring it into your Wolfram. So watch that video, please. Then you're going to grab this file. Okay, so I've already made a copy of it. All right, and let's see a little bit what we're doing. Okay, so we're going to learn a bit about data types. Okay, so we're going to have data. So really, it's a spreadsheet that we're bringing in, but we want to talk really about what kind of variables that you have. In other words, what kind of data do you have? And so that'll be something that continues to be a topic going forward. Now, when we execute this network directory, okay, so you can go ahead and so you'll want to do it on your. So you're going to have to do this in your in yours as well. Okay, so I've done it, but you'll want to do it again, right? And so when you do it, it's going to tell you you're going to have something different than what I do here. Okay, so you're going to have to do something different than what I do here. And then you're going to have to do this command, set directory to that notebook directory. Okay, so that means that then when you're going to import this file, this data variables.csv, when you import it, it's going to go into somewhere where they can find it. Okay, so you're going to use that arrow and import it. And so you're going to go over and say upload files. Okay, so if you've downloaded the file, it'll be somewhere. Now for me it's in downloads on a Mac. I think it's the same on the Windows. Not sure what it is on a Chromebook. Okay, so and then you can upload this file. Wolfram import. Oh, sorry, it's variables. And notice you might have to change the name. So if your name is different, I think my name is different because if you look down here, I've already imported it once. Now, you need to do these commands, otherwise it won't work. Okay, so then this you can ignore. That didn't work. Okay, so that didn't work. Didn't work for me. Okay. And so what didn't work was I did the import command, but I didn't say header lines 1. Okay, so we're going to import, use your variable name inside quotes, okay, quotes variable name, and then use exactly this command. So you have to use exactly this command after you've got your own copy of variables.csv in the directory where your Wolfram is. So then when you import it, you should see exactly what I see here. Okay, but you have to use exactly this command. Okay, so you're going to have to execute it again. Okay, so don't. So, all right, so let's just delete it. And so you're going to go in and you're going to execute it again. Okay, so it takes a while, okay, but it's imported several hundred lines of. So 597 lines of data. And what can you do with it? So you can look and say, oh, show me the first 5. Okay. So let's change it. Let's say, all right, show me the first 10. Okay. Well, not the first 510. That's a little extreme. All right. All right. We'll compromise and do 15. Show me the first 15 lines. Okay, and there we are. There's our first 15 lines of data. Now we want to find out, well, how much is the data? And so this is telling you that there's 597 rows and 8. So you should go ahead and try it and see if you get the same thing, or if you didn't, then something went wrong with your import. Okay, so when you look, you can also, so if you look at a single row. So we look at the second row of data. Okay, so this was a patient, 64 years old, admitted for care, temperature, not a diabetic, I think hemoglobin maybe, which group it's in, so you're doing something. Survey question 1. And so if you just do one at a time, see, it gives you this sort of nice, so it gives you, instead of the normal way that you see data, right, with the headers across the top, it then puts the headers at the side. So it's kind of a convenient way of looking at it. So you can look at the things one by one. Okay. And so you say, well, what are some of the things, logistics? We can also look at okay. So this is, when I looked at logistics, how many different things are there, right? So there's different things that can happen in the hospital. Well, we could say, what about for temperature? What happens if we say, tell us the different things that happen for temperature? And this then gives us a list of the various temperatures. So there were 42 different temperatures recorded in there. Okay. Can we do it for anything else? Well, so if you go up to, if we want to see all the rows, HB. Or how about insulin-dependent diabetic? Okay, let's do that. Insulin-dependent diabetic. So we're going to say, what were the counts on that? Insulin-dependent diabetic. Okay, so someone, he's taking insulin because of having diabetes. So when we look at that, we should just see, so that's kind of an interesting one, right? That you say, okay, out of the people who are in our study, how many take medicine for diabetes? And it's about a little under 10%. Okay, so that one's a very nice thing. Counts that up for you. You can see that's a very powerful tool there. Okay, so this one doesn't look very good, right? So let's try it again. So it didn't work. Okay, so yeah, so there we go. So out of the people's age, so our youngest person was 18, our oldest person was 90 in our study. All right, so what kind of data do we have? Okay, so you can have a number, right? And so if we have something that's a number, we can do min-max. Like for temperature, we can do the min-max of the people there. Now, read this paragraph. It's an interesting paragraph, and what it's talking about is that age is something where you can say, I'm twice as old as you, because we have a definite 0. We're born, that's 0. I'm 10 years old, I'm 40 years old, I'm four times older than you, I'm 30 years older than you. But temperature is a little different. So as you know, our 0 in Fahrenheit is different from the 0 in Celsius, and it doesn't mean the coldest it can be. There is a scale called Kelvin, which is like that. And you can argue, if you're using Kelvin, oh, well, I'm 10 degrees above absolute 0, and you're 20, that I'm twice as warm as you. But we can't really make that argument. And so in this line, then, they talk about the difference. Okay, so this is, as you get better at working with data, is a distinction you want to start becoming aware of, is that it's an interval, right? So it's true that based on the temperature scale we're using, I'm 20 degrees warmer than you, 20 degrees colder, but we can't use any absolute comparison. It's twice as warm. In age, it's a ratio type numerical data, okay? And so most of the time we're going to have that, but temperature's not. Okay. Then we look at the next thing, like category. Right, so we have a category, and these can be words, and a lot of times, it can just be a fairly small set, or a large set, all breeds of dogs, right? But it's a finite set. Okay, doesn't go on forever. But let's say that you took dogs and you said border collies and Australian shepherds and German shepherds and stuff. Well, if you wanted, you say, well, I'm going to put them in alphabetical order. But there isn't really, it's sort of arbitrary, right? There's no reason to think one is before the other, right? Whereas for months, the months of the year, you might say, well, there is an order to it, right? The months of the year there's 12 in that category, and they do have an order, but the dogs don't really have an order. And you might decide, as we do with our months, to give them a value. And, well, if you say first month, 12 month, that maybe makes some sense. But for your dogs, you know, you say, okay, because you maybe you don't want to store in a computer, you don't want to store the long names of the animals, so you just have a table that says, well, border collies, of course, are number 1, and maybe Australian shepherds are number 2, depending on your prejudices about dogs. Okay, and so you'll have a number maybe, but it doesn't necessarily mean anything. So the example that they give here is about improvement, and they say, well, whether the patient improved or not, we could give a 0 for didn't and a 1 for did. And that sort of goes back to the idea that you see in some computer languages, a 0 stands for false and 1 stands for true. Okay, now, next, they want to talk about, well, what if you have a rating, like a 1 to 5 rating? So you say, okay, well, rate food 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. What can you do with that? Well, it's not like you can do the same thing as when you have 1 to 5 in a pure mathematical situation. So can we say that the difference between 1 and 2 is the same far apart as between 2 and 3? Is a 4, if food tastes like a 4, is it twice as tasty? So have to be careful. So we're using numbers, but it's sort of hard to, in a situation like that, rating them, to use some of the same things we can if, say, we were doing age. Right? Now, another interesting thing for you to think about is discrete versus continuous. So if you're looking at someone's height or weight, you can get as precise as you want. You can get down to thousandths of a kilo or a millionth of a kilo if you want. And for a year, you can divide a year up into seconds if you want. So you're very continuous if you want. And money, you can. You don't have to stick to just dollars. You could have cents or tenths of cents as well. But there's other things where that really doesn't make sense, right? So when you roll a die, you don't get all values between 1 and 6. You get the discrete values, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so that's something you want to think about as well in your data, if you have continuous types like that. So you can see that you have one big task, which is to import your data and do that successfully. And so let me know if you have trouble, and I'll try and help you out. I don't have a Windows machine right now, but I'll see if I can borrow my wife's machine and get some experience with that. So we'll end this video, and I'll do a separate video on the answers.